I'm so glad you're joining us. Again, I long to be with everybody and hanging out, but this Wednesday we are not. We're still social distancing. But next Wednesday, watch social media, your emails. It's going to change. I have some plans in place for us to be able to get together. So just stay tuned. I'm formulating a plan for all of us or those that can join us to come. So why don't we kick off tonight? I want to say welcome. Thanks for joining us, tuning in online. I want to say that you are deeply missed, okay? So we are continuing in this series, Goals. And I hope that you have been thinking about the goals that you wrote down last week. And you've been kind of processing them, right? Your God-sized goals and maybe praying about them. So we're going to continue that, talking about the plan of setting and achieving goals, right? But not just any goals, God-sized goals, okay? So we set goals all the time, right? Every day we set goals, whether it's a goal that you're going to get your homework completed by 7 o'clock, or maybe it's a goal that you're going to get better at maybe a sport that you play. You want to, say, hey, by this week, I want to be better at this. Maybe there's a boy or girl that you like. So the goal is, hey, I want to get their attention. So we all have goals and we all set them. But I have a question for you. Have you ever felt stuck in a goal? Now, have you ever gotten stuck trying to achieve one of your goals? Now, don't worry, okay? We have all been there. Yes, we all have been there. We all have gotten stuck. But today, I want to give you some tools or show you some ways of how we can get unstuck, okay? So, has anybody ever seen or read this book called The Little Prince? Hopefully you can see that. If you read it, it's a really interesting, really good book. It's neat. And I think one of the takeaways from this book, one of the quotes that I love, it says, "A goal without a plan is just a wish." Okay? Now, the author is, I'm probably going to mess up his name, is Anthony D. St. Exupéry. Anyways, and it seems like that he knew a few things about goals because he was an accomplished writer, a poet, a journalist, and he also was a pilot. So how do you think he achieved so much? Was it just, maybe he's just exceptionally, maybe talented, exceptionally smart? Maybe it was, hey, he just got lucky. Or maybe if you think about it, maybe he knew how to have a well-executed plan. Yeah. So while some of us may be there are naturally talented people, there are naturally talented people, in certain areas. Most of us, even the naturally talented people, need a plan to accomplish things. So whether it would be, let's say, building something, learning something new, maybe even changing the world, God gives us all, you guys, the ability to solve problems and to make things happen. Yes, God gives us the ability. Okay, but to accomplish those things, we are going to need a plan. So, what's a goal? What's a goal that possibly wouldn't be able to happen without a plan? Think about that. What's something that possibly wouldn't be able to happen if you didn't have a plan? Maybe it'd be a spiritual goal. Maybe like spending time with God regularly. We normally have to make a plan, right? You have to say, I want to take 5 minutes. My plan is I'm going to start 5 minutes. Maybe your plan is I'm going to start 2 minutes. Somewhere we start a plan, right? Maybe it's a mental goal, learning something new. You see something, you're like, wow, that looks pretty neat. I want to learn that. You start with a plan, okay? A physical goal, right? Trying a new activity. Anybody play a sport and you want to try it? You got to, Yeah, there's a physical goal. Maybe if it's on the football team or wrestling that's going on right now or whatever it is, right? You want to become stronger, faster. Maybe it's a workout goal, a physical goal. Relationship goals. We all have those. We should all have potentially those. If you're in a relationship, you should have some relationship goals. Maybe if you're in with a friends, you want to be a better friend. If you're dating somebody, maybe it's to be, a better person to date. Or you want to have different things while you date that make the other person feel happy, loved, cared for, so relationship goals. So these are all good goals, okay? But without a plan, what are they? They're just wishful thinking, aren't they? So what about you? What's one of your most plan-worthy goals? Think about that. Think about that. What's one of your most plan-worthy goals? Maybe you've already did a plan and you're like, wow, that was I had that plan, I accomplished it. Maybe you're thinking about something that you're planning, and you got a goal and you're like, okay, I get it. I need to formulate this. So, yeah, we all have those goals. One of my goals when I was in college or trying to make it in college and pay for the bills was my dad had mentioned that, hey, Kevin, you should learn how to put in flooring, because I was working at night. So I'd work at night and then I would do school all day, and it was like exhausting and trying to pay for it. So I took off and came back home in the summertime. And I wanted to make money, learn how to do flooring. And a flooring company in the town that I lived, they had, just ironically, they were looking for installers. So my dad had mentioned to me about being a flooring installer. He said you could work on the weekend, make the same amount of money that you would make all week. So I'm like, hey, this would be a great idea. So I went down and I applied, and I walked in and I formulated a plan. I was like, this is my goal. I want to learn how to do this so that I could become a flooring installer, so that it would be easier to do my studies during the week and I'll work on the weekends or whatever. And so the goal started, first I needed to apply. So I went in and I applied for the job, okay? And now the thing that was against me is I never installed flooring before. Never. I went in, they asked me some questions. They said, have you ever installed flooring? I said, no, but I would love to learn. I would love to learn how to install flooring. I'm a good learner, just teach me. I'm a hard worker. So they took down information. I went to the interview. They said, they'll call me back. So a week went by, and I waited. But at the end of the week, my plan was I'm going to call. So I called them at the end of the week on a Friday. And they said, we haven't made a decision. Just wait. So another week went, and I called again. And they still hadn't made a decision. And so it was going on the third week, and I called 2 times that week. I called on a Wednesday, my plan was, and I called on a Friday, because my thought was, if I'm staying in, so to speak, the forefront of their mind when they're looking, maybe going through resumes, and they're like, hey, this Kevin guy keeps calling, maybe they would hire me. So after about a month, maybe month and a half, maybe a little less, I got a call from the owner. Called me up. He's like, hey, we'd like to have you come in. Came in. He's like, I want to offer you the job. And so I'm like, great. And he's like, I'm giving you the job. And I said, I have no idea, but I'm really thankful you're giving me the job. I work hard. He said, I'm giving you the job because you called so much and were so persistent that we figured you would be a great asset to our company, and that if you're that diligent about wanting to get the job, that you would stay with the job and you would probably be a really great learner. And so that's how I got into doing flooring, and eventually I did own my own business, and it started to grow, and it was really neat. So being persistent, I had a plan, and I kept pursuing it, okay? I don't tell you this story, though, you guys, to kind of brag about my achievement. I tell you it because if I can do it, you can do it. Trust me, okay? If you're not convinced, maybe the next part of Nehemiah and his story will help convince you, okay? So just a little recap. We were looking at, in the Old Testament, the book of Nehemiah, talking about a guy named Nehemiah, and the book was written quite a bit after the Jewish people and the city of Jerusalem and everything was destroyed, leveled, right? We said that the town was destroyed. Everything was gone. The temple was burned. The gates that protected the walls around the city were burned down and destroyed, okay? But we said that God had promised that he would restore Jerusalem and the Jewish people and that they would return, okay? And then the book of Nehemiah, we also begun where the people, it said that the people had been returning to Jerusalem, and then Nehemiah got wind of it, and it broke his heart, we said, and he prayed, and he fasted, and he saw it after he saw, and then he felt that, I can be part of the help to restore Jerusalem. So he designed a plan. He had a God-sized plan, goal that he was looking to do, right? Because his heart was grieved that the people are there, but the city walls were in shambles, so he wanted to go back and help rebuild them. But he had a couple problems, right? One, there was the practical problem that he saw. He saw without the walls that the people, his ancestors and his people, were able to become under attack. That even though they were building the city back up, they had nothing to fortify and protect them from outside invasions, right? Two, he also saw the spiritual problem, that leaving the walls in shambles, it dishonored God. But rebuilding them would be a sign that his people were returning to God and they would be honoring God by restoring and being obedient to him. So there was the practical problem and the spiritual problem that he saw. So, inspired by his love for his people and his love for God, he set his God-sized goal, right? And it was rebuild the walls of Jerusalem so God's people would be protected and God would be honored. Okay? So, Nehemiah had a goal. Okay? But, like we've been talking about, what about his plan? Well, if you remember from last week, the first thing that he did, like I said, was what did he do? He prayed and he fasted. And this is what it said in Nehemiah chapter 1, verses 4 and then verse 11. As soon as he heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I continued to fast and pray before the God of heaven. And in verse 11, it says, O Lord, let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to the prayer of your servants who delight to fear your name, and give success to your servant today, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man. Now I was a cupbearer. Okay, so there's three things that we notice here, okay? Nehemiah didn't ask God, though, for step-by-step instructions, okay? He knew that God wanted him to lead the charge, right? In his heart, he's like, okay, God, you want me to lead the charge in rebuilding these walls, okay? What didn't he do? He didn't just sit around and be like, okay, God, I'm going to wait for you to put everything together and get it all ready to go, and then I'll go, right? He started praying, and he started fasting, and he got going, right? He just didn't wait for God. He started planning, okay? By the time he reached the end of his prayer, we said he prayed for a while, by the time Nehemiah reached the end of it, it said he was already working on a plan. He asked God to help make him successful for what he was about to attempt. And then, interesting, it says, now I was a cupbearer to the king. This is really helpful information. Like we said last week, that being a cupbearer meant that Nehemiah was in a very strategic, God had placed him in a very strategic place, so he had access to the king, right? Because the cupbearer was the king's taste tester from his drink to his food or whatever, so that if it's poisoned, right? And we said that the king and the cupbearer in those days would become very close because the king trusted the cupbearer, and cupbearer is putting his life on the line all the time. So Nehemiah used that, okay? Used that as like, okay, I have direct access to the king. I have resources readily available to me, okay? So he had a plan, and he started formulating it, okay? So sum it up, Nehemiah planned while he prayed. Then in Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 1 to 9, it says this, in the month of Nisan, this is not when the cars were invented, and the 20th year of the king Xerxes, When wine was before him, I took up the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. And the king said to me, why is your face sad, seeing you are not sick? Now remember, we said being sad in the king's presence could lead to death, okay? So he had not shown any emotion, but it says now his face is showing emotion. This is nothing but sadness of the heart. Then I was very much afraid, and I said to the king, oh, the king, live forever. Why should my face be sad when my city and the place of my father's graves lie in ruin, and its gates have been destroyed by fire? Then the king said to me, what are you requesting? So I prayed to God in heaven. I love that little prayer. God says a prayer to God right there. Boom. Okay? And I said to the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, that you send me to Judah of the city of my father's graves, that I may rebuild it. And the king said to me, the queen sitting beside him, how long will you be gone, and when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me when I had given him the time. And I said to the king, if it pleases the king, let a letter be given to me, to the governors of the province beyond the river, that they may let me pass through until I come to Judah. And the letter to Asphur, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber and make beams for the gates of the fortress of the temple and for the walls of the city, for the house that I shall occupy. And the king granted me what I asked, for the good hand of my God was upon me. Verse 9, Then I came to the governors of the province beyond the river and gave them the king's letter. Now the king had sent me with his officers of army and the horsemen. So, okay. Now if you're thinking, why are we reading these boring details? Trust me, stick with me for a little bit, okay? So in these verses, we discover that Nehemiah hadn't just been praying and casually planning, okay? He wasn't like asking the Lord, heartbroken, and just kind of like, I think this might work, maybe this will work. I'm not, he wasn't just casually planning. He was preparing a great deal, okay? He had a plan in place, and though he was praying, he was preparing, okay? The king asked Nehemiah why he looked sad, right? Why he looked sad. Nehemiah had an answer to give him. The king asked what Nehemiah wanted, right? He had a request already planned out. Okay, the king wanted to know how long the journey was going to take and how long Nehemiah would be gone. Nehemiah already had that planned out, right? Because he gave him an answer when he wanted to leave and when he would return. Okay, through this process, Nehemiah continued to talk in prayer, right? He said a really short little prayer right before he answers the king. That's super cool, okay? But he didn't wait for God to do all the work, did he? He used his strategic mind, the mind that God gave him, okay, to plan and prepare while he waited for the right opportunity. Because we said before, it was about 4 months or so from the time he started praying till the time he had the request, talk to the king about it. Okay, because Nehemiah had prepared in great detail the opportunity that he hoped for when it arrived with speaking with the king. Everything worked out, right? Nehemiah was fully prepared to take advantage of it, okay? And God worked in the king's heart. So to sum it up, Nehemiah prepared while he planned, okay? So while we were planning, we have to be preparing as well. Nehemiah already had a plan in place, and now it was time to recruit others to help make it happen, okay? But he also had to figure out how to deal with people who definitely didn't agree or maybe wouldn't want to help him with his plan. So this is where we pick up in Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 10 through 20, okay? But when the Sanballat, the Horonite, and Tabihah, the Ammonite, servants heard this, it pleased them greatly that someone had come to seek the welfare of the people in Israel. So people are already upset. So I went to Jerusalem, and I was there 3 days. Then I arose in the night and a few men with me, and I told no one what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. There was no animal with me but with the one in which I rode. I went out by the night by the valley gate to the dragon spring, to the dung gate, and inspected the walls of Jerusalem that were broken down, and to the gate that had been destroyed by fire. Then I went on to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, and there was no room for the animal that was under me to pass. Then I went up in the night by the valley and inspected the wall, and I turned back and entered by the valley gate, and so returned. And the officials did not know where I had gone or what I had done, and I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, the officials, or the rest who were to do the work. Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in, how Jerusalem lies in ruins with no gate, with its gates burned. Come, let us rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, that we may no longer suffer. And I told them of the hand of my God that had been upon me for good, and also of the words that the king had spoken to me. And they said, let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hand for the good work. But when the Sanballat, the Horonite, and Tabitha, the Ammonite, servants of Geshem, the Arab, heard of it, they jeered at us and despised us and said, what is this thing that you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king? Then I replied to them, the God of heaven will make us prosper, and we, his servants, will arise and build, but you will have no portion or right or claim in Jerusalem. All right, so Nehemiah, he gained a couple enemies right off the bat, right? People didn't want to see him succeed. They didn't want him to be successful. They didn't want the city to be rebuilt, okay? So when you're doing or planning or getting to work on a God-sized plan, you have to remember there may be some people that oppose you, okay? But as we saw, Nehemiah was once again ready, right? He wasn't naive. He knew that people were going to oppose him. He knew how to hold his tongue, not get mad, right? And keep to the plan. He kept it secret. As it's interesting, it shows, it names these places that he went, like these specific spots around the city. He went and inspected the walls for himself, the area that was destroyed. So he had a plan. He knew what was wrong, what needed to be repaired. He circled the city by himself, right? Nobody else was with him, okay? He figured out a way to bypass the people that opposed him so that he could recruit the people that were of the same mindset that he had, that wanted to rebuild the walls, right? That wanted to see the goal accomplished. So what happens? He surrounds himself with like-minded people, okay? The right people. So Nehemiah planned for opposition too, okay? He knew it just wasn't going to be a bed of roses, so to speak. So he planned for people to come against him. So God gave Nehemiah a huge task, you guys, to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. But God also gave Nehemiah everything that he needed to see it accomplished, okay? Nehemiah had access to God through prayer. He had his God-given talents and his abilities and his passions. He had resources. He had opportunities. He had connections that God had given him, right, through the kings and the letters and stuff. And now he had other people that were in line and on board with his vision for rebuilding the walls, right? So, although Nehemiah's God-side goal probably scared him and maybe sometimes overwhelmed him, because there are times when you look at something and it's like, oh, this is really overwhelming. Like going back to the flooring, there have been times where I walk in to do a job and you got to lay vinyl and do all this stuff, and you look and you're like, how in the world is this going to happen? And I'll be honest with you guys, there'll be times like, God, just give me wisdom, because I don't know how, and the job will come out beautifully. So there are times, I share that because there's times where you're going to feel overwhelmed, like, I don't know if I can do this, okay? But we see Nehemiah didn't give up, did he? He didn't wait around for somebody else to handle it too. He took charge. He made a plan, okay? Although Nehemiah's goal was extraordinary. He understood the tools that would be needed for him to be successful, okay? To carry out his plan. So, Nehemiah took the vision that God had given him, the skills that God had given him, the resources that God made available to him, and he got to work, okay? Nehemiah trusted that accomplishing this God-sized goal was exactly what he was made to do. That God had brought him to this time, put him in this position, gave him the resources of the mind and the vision, because he knew this is exactly what he was supposed to do. So, just like Nehemiah, what has God put on your heart? What God-sized goal is maybe on your heart? Think about a big goal maybe that you have achieved already. Think about a goal that you have achieved already in your past. Okay? You thinking about it? You got that goal in mind? Okay? Now, I don't know how you achieved that goal, okay? But here's what I do know, okay? You were able to achieve it because God designed you to be able to do it. You have a brain that can think, right? And can strategize. You have people who could help you. You have a skill set that God has given you. And there are resources that you can use to accomplish your goal, okay? So if you're not sure maybe about, let's just say maybe about this whole God thing, or if you're not sure maybe what God has, if you maybe have a God-sized goal, I want to say that's okay, okay? What I am going to share with you is that you still can achieve whatever goals that you have. If your goal right now is maybe, like we talked about, a you goal, all about you, or achieving maybe a bigger goal like Nehemiah. Nehemiah can teach you some important wisdom, okay? He can teach you some important wisdom that can help you achieve your goal. Let me say that again, okay? So whether your goal is a you-sized goal, you're like, hey, it's all these goals I have are just about for myself. There's really no benefit for anybody else. That's fine. We can still use what we learn in Nehemiah to accomplish those goals. But we also, I want to challenge you, okay? We also can maybe start thinking about a bigger goal. What vision is God giving you, okay? So whether it's right now, it's maybe you want to, there's a sport that you're in and you want to be in this position. So that's your goal. I'm going to work hard. I want to get on it. Maybe in the springtime or the fall next year, soccer, football, you're like, this is what I want. Maybe that's your goal right now. You're going to work out, you're going to run, you're going to get faster. That's fine, okay? Chase after your goals, whatever it is. Maybe it's in school and you want to get your grades up. Right now you're a little bit lower and you're like, hey, I want to get on the B honor roll. I want to be on the A honor roll. Awesome. Chase after those goals, okay? But don't settle for goals, though I want to say, that only benefit you, okay? Like talked about last week, try asking God to start giving you bigger goals, give you a vision, okay? What is God designed you to do? What is God calling you to be part of, okay? Start asking God for something more than just benefits you, like a God-sized plan. Okay, so if you think about you might have a God-sized whole goal that's maybe growing in your heart. Maybe there's something you're like, oh, I really want to do this, but I'm not really sure. Okay? Great. Start praying about it, okay? Maybe last week when I asked you to write something down, you're still like, oh, you're thinking about that? You're like, I would like to do that. Awesome. Start looking at what you wrote down. Look at that God-sized goal that you wrote down that you're like, without God's help, I can never accomplish that. Start praying about it, right? Start formulating a plan. Start thinking about that God-sized goal and start thinking about how can you turn that into an action plan. God designed you. God designed you just like he designed Nehemiah with everything you need to accomplish these God-sized goals. Right? Okay, think about this. Think about these 4 things here. Follow me. Okay, you've got you. You've got you. Okay? We all feel sometimes insecure, or we're not good enough, or we can't do it. But God designed you, right? With care, with intention, with purpose. And when God gives you a God-sized goal, right? Don't ask, what do I bring to the table, or how can I contribute? You already are contributing, and you're already bringing to the table. You're bringing a mind. You can think. You got a plan, right? Strategy. Start thinking about it. Your mind is using a plan and strategizing. You have a unique skill set only you have, okay? You may have experience and knowledge on how to continue with this plan that God is putting on your heart. And God has given you the interest and the passion to get it done. Second, you have others, right? Like Nehemiah discovered, most of the God-sized goals can't be just accomplished by ourselves. We're going to need others to help us accomplish it. But if we want to make a lasting change, we need to incorporate other people, right? To get this God-sized goal going. Like Nehemiah, he couldn't build the walls by himself. He needed to get others on board to help him build the walls. When God gives you a God-sized goal, ask yourself, who can I ask? Who is on board with my vision? Pray about it. Think about it. Is it friends or family? Is it maybe a trusted adult? Is it a teacher? Maybe a coach, a mentor? Access to knowledge from experts. We have internet, YouTube, library. Lots of different ways that we can gain knowledge and wisdom from other people. There's influential people maybe around in the community that can help you make things happen, You can either contact them in person or maybe online. Send them an email. Say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What is the best way? Or call them up. Talk to them. Go visit them. I don't know. I know with COVID it's a little, but yeah. Okay, third, things. Nehemiah, what did he need? He needed transportation. He needed wood. He needed a letter. The king's blessing, right? And you're probably going to need some things to accomplish your God-sized goal. Yes. When God gives you a God-sized goal, what do I need and where can I get it? Ask that question. This is your goal, God-sized goal. So what do I need? Where can I get it? Okay. Everyone's God-sized goal will be different. We'll need different things. Maybe for you, it might be money. Maybe it might be supplies or an audience or maybe a location or a platform or just the opportunity. So pray about those. And then fourthly, God, right? Most importantly, you have God. God is on your side. Whether your goal is every day, like a you-sized goal, or a once-in-a-lifetime God-sized goal, like, hey, we can start this. God has given us this vision. We're going to people, and we're going to start changing the world. Maybe it starts in this community, and then it goes to another community, and another, and who knows, right? Who knows what God has in store for it? Like Nehemiah, God probably isn't going to give you, though. Remember this. God isn't probably going to give you step by step, like A, B, C, D, this is how I do it, instructions, okay? He's going to give it. You're going to have to use your mind, okay? You're going to have to plan. You're going to strategize. To achieve your God-sized goal, you're going to have a plan, okay? So, like Nehemiah, you are designed, you guys, for God-sized goals, okay? You have the tools. My question for you is, and my challenge for you as we close here, what are you going to build? Join me in prayer, guys. Oh, Lord, I thank you that we can gather, even though we're not in person, but we can still connect, Lord. I just pray that I challenge everybody that's just listening and tuning in, what God-sized goal are you putting on our heart? If we just have right now a you-sized goal, that's great, Lord. Help us to accomplish those and help us maybe to start praying about it, seeking you out to accomplish these just us goals. But Lord, I pray that you would continue to put on our hearts. Help us to see around us, maybe a God-sized goal. Help us, give us a vision like you gave Nehemiah. Give us something, show us all show us what is around us where we can get plugged into a God-sized goal. Is something that breaks your heart. Let it break ours as well. And give us Help us to see the resources that you've given us. We all have been made in your likeness, and you put into each one of us talents and different skill sets. So Lord, help us to live into that. Not let us live into fear or failure or whatever it is, Lord. Help us to surround ourselves with you, Lord, to bathe whatever you're giving us in prayer. And Lord, I pray that you would bring people along into our path that would encourage us and build us up and come along and help us to accomplish these goals. So Lord, help us to seek after you with all of our hearts. Draw us into a deeper relationship with you and keep everyone safe that's tuning in. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. So hey guys, again, join us tonight at 7 o'clock for Zoom chat. Check your emails. That's access. Again, if you cannot find it, text me, call me, DM me. I will get you hooked up. And then next Wednesday, we're going to be able to get back together. I'm formulating a plan on how everything's going to work and work out. But it's going to be awesome, you guys, that we can finally get back together. So I'm looking forward to seeing you. And so, hey, have a blessed week. Be safe and always shine the light of Christ. See you guys.